Hey everyone, in this video you're going to learn how to be your own boss and hold yourself accountable. I'm Ian and I'm a free boss, which means that I'm my own boss and I'm free to work when and where I want to. So in this video I'm going to show you how to be a free boss and be able to hold yourself accountable, learn the self-discipline, create a schedule, and really be the best boss that you can be. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So first I want to say and acknowledge that it can be very hard to become your own boss. One thing that a lot of people lack is self-discipline, and when you're becoming your own boss, that's the number one thing that you have to have in order to be successful. So that's the number one thing that you need to overcome, and know that that's going to be the hardest part of being your own boss. It takes a lot of self-discipline for you to be highly productive when you're being your own boss. It's so easy to slack off and decide not to work that day, or to sleep in an extra couple hours when there's nobody cracking the whip on you, when you're not supposed to be at an office by a certain time. It can be very hard to actually stay on task and be productive. You need to actually take it seriously and treat it like a job, whether it's your side hustle that you're trying to grow and transition to that being your full-time job, or let's say right now you're completely unemployed and you're trying to actually try this new venture just 100% from nothing. You need to treat it like a job, which means that you need to be at the job and clocked in by 8 or 9 a.m. and then clock off by 5 or 6 p.m. You need to treat it like you would actually treat going to a real job. Many businesses fail because of this one thing, of the lack of self-discipline, because they don't take it 100% seriously, because they don't 120% put in the effort to actually make the business a success. If you can master this one thing, which is self-discipline, if you can master kicking yourself in the ass every single day and making yourself, cracking the whip on yourself, and making yourself do the stuff that you need to do, then your business will be a success. So you have two options. In my eyes, you have two options. You can either hire somebody that's going to kick your ass and crack the whip on you, which would be a personal coach or an assistant or a secretary or something like that. Or you can actually learn how to hold yourself accountable, and then maybe down the road then you'll hire a personal coach or an assistant once you have the funds to be able to have somebody kicking your ass a little bit. So you need to learn these skills of how to hold yourself accountable, and I'm going to show you some tips on how you can really do that, put in some systems and processes into place so that you are holding yourself accountable. So first, I want you to imagine that you are actually two people. Imagine that you're a schizophrenic and you have two personalities. You got two people living inside your body, okay, inside your head. The first person is the manager, is the boss. He cracks the whip on the employee. He makes sure that that employee stays on task, that they're actually setting schedules, meeting their deadlines, setting goals, making a priority list. You know, if you're not on schedule, if you're not on task, then there are going to be consequences. You're going to be punished if you fall short on your goals, fall short on your deadlines. If you basically mess up as an employee, the boss is the person that needs to be able to crack the whip and get the employee into shape, right? So I'm sure that you've either had a boss, or maybe you've been in management and you've managed employees, but you need to take this same approach when you're managing yourself. Manage yourself like a boss manages an employee, and that's where the first person is going to come into place. You got to create incentives also, so that when the employee does achieve their goals or achieves their deadlines or their milestones, things like that, then they get a little cookie or they get a little reward. You know, maybe it's work for put in a long day's work, and then you get to treat yourself by eating at a really nice restaurant. That's how I like to reward myself. For me, the reward is always food. I'm a big foodie, so I love food. So when I go through the whole week and I have a really strong, productive week, then on that Friday night I'll kind of splurge a little bit and I'll go to a nicer restaurant. And for me, splurging is like spending like 20 or 30 bucks. It's not even really like splurging that hard. Like, I'm not going to spend $100 on a meal, but splurging could be spending, you know, 25, 30 bucks on eating out at a decent place, maybe going to some sushi. So create those incentives, crack the whip just like your boss. Now the second person is going to be the employee, the worker. So that is the other person living inside your brain, and that's the person that gets to work on time. They do the best job that they can. They try to be as productive as possible. They look for ways to be more efficient. How can they be more efficient with their time, and how can they be more efficient for the company? How can the company grow? What can they do to make the company overall more efficient? And the last one is staying on task. As an employee, and pretty much the biggest challenge for being a work from home type of being your own boss or even employee is to just stay on task, to literally work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or something like that, where you're actually working the entire time. Maybe you take, your 30-minute or hour lunch break, and maybe you take a 15-minute smoke break. I always used to call them smoke breaks because it's like, when you're working and you don't smoke cigarettes, but then the other people that are working, they do smoke cigarettes and they get their smoke break. I feel like you should get a little bit of a smoke break when you're a non-smoker, and it's just where you take 15 minutes and you just go for a walk, or you browse Facebook, or you browse Reddit, or you go on YouTube. That's what I would say. So you have these little micro breaks, but in between your micro breaks and lunch, you are full out working 120% in work mode. That's the employee. You need to be a rock star employee, and then you also need to be a rock star manager that manages your inner employee self. And you need to be an amazing employee for that manager. And keep this in mind. Hopefully this analogy is helping you out a little bit. So when you're working from home, you need to have a designated spot, whether it is a designated room or it's a designated desk that you're planting yourself and sitting at. And when you're at that designated spot, you need to 100% be in work mode. It's not browsing on Facebook and doing unless it's that micro break that I just talked about, but that designated spot needs to be 100% work. Also, when you're doing taxes, taxes are going to look for that designated spot. They're not, if you're going to try and take a deduction, this is off topic, but if you're going to try and take a deduction, you need to have a 100% dedicated spot that the tax people can look at and all that kind of stuff. Also, you need to be free of potential distractions. So a lot of my buddies, they actually can't work from home because their house has so many distractions, whether it's kids, pets, their TV. The house may not be the best. So you need to realize this and think, wow, if I'm not able to be as productive as possible from the house, then you need to go somewhere else. Maybe it's another office that you go to outside of your house. Maybe it's Starbucks, maybe it's Panera Bread. Wherever you can go that's going to get you in that work mode and keep you in that work mode, that's where you need to go. And you need to have the self-discipline to know that you need to go there, that self-awareness to know, holy cow, I'm really not on task 100% of the time when I'm working from home, so I need to figure out what I need to do in order to get in that work mode that you need to be in order to be highly productive. So this one, the last one I believe, is to create a routine. So literally in your Google Calendar, block off every single time of what you're going to be doing from this time to this time to this time to this time. Get have a schedule going of exactly when you're going to clock in and when you're going to clock out and when you're going to take your lunch, and plot out the whole entire day of like, this little time slot I'm going to be sending out emails, this little time slot I'm going to be education. When you're in this transition phase, when you're going from your full career to transitioning into something new, I would highly recommend having a time slot just purely dedicated to education, where you're watching videos or you're consuming content that is all about you just educating yourself and getting better as an actual worker, as a player, as a sport. I like to look at business as a sport. So when you're working and educating, that's not necessarily, maybe if you're not working, that's getting paid, so you're working for free. Look at that as practice, that you're just practicing your skill and you're learning your skill and you're in practice mode. Then when you're actually getting paid to do this stuff, then it's game time. Then you're on and it counts, and you need to be on your A game during the game time. So to recap everything, it really just comes down to self-discipline. Crack the whip on yourself and get the boss side of yourself to really manage your employee side in the best way possible, and have your employee side look at the boss side and have your employee be the best rock star employee that it can be. And if you do all this, you're literally guaranteed success. If you just get in the routine and get in the motions of work. So many people, they try to start their own business, but they just don't treat it like a business. They treat it like a hobby, and it never becomes a business because it's always a hobby. They never put it on the serious plate that it needs to be put on. But anyway, If you are a free boss or you're wanting to become a free boss and be your own boss and work from when and wherever you want to work, then join our Facebook group. It's freebosslifestyle.com. Join the Facebook group and communicate with the other people that are currently free bosses or that they're trying to learn to become a free boss. There's a lot of networking that you can do in there. There's a lot of content that we have in there that you can learn to get better at things. And I hope this video was helpful for you, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.